All right, fools.
Is it on?
Yeah, we're recording now.
How did you do that?
Because you watched... Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is now time for Because You Watched...
Whoosh!
Wait, is it whoosh or zoom?
It's both. Dramatic.
Starcrash. Because you watched Starcrash, Michael Vanderpool here, along with Dr. Alan Barris and Michael Klink, whose mission in life is to prove that art matters.
Because it does.
Are here today because of Starcrash, and because of Starcrash, we watched Space Raiders. Now, Space Raiders is a 1983 Roger Corman production. It stars people. Vince Edwards, David Mendenhall, who's probably, I would argue, the most noticeable of the bunch. Patsy Pease, Thom Christopher, a bunch of other people you have never seen in anything since.
And Dick Miller was in it for like a second.
As Crazy Mel. Oh, his Wikipedia picture is awesome. So, how do we start? How does this relate to Starcrash? Why did this show up in our Because You Watched Starcrash queue?
The same thing. It was in space.
Well, it's in space. It's Roger Corman, and
Yes.
we've seen Corman as a common factor here. It's ripping off a huge chunk of Battle Beyond the Stars, which we've already seen footage from in Forbidden World.
Yes.
Same damn space fights.
Yes.
And I think that about covers it.
When I was watching this, when I first started it, the ship looked familiar, the main ship.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was like, why does that look familiar? And I thought it was a Star Wars thing, so it looked like a starfighter from Naboo. And then I saw it as one of the aliens with the eyes that come up off the top of your head on Star Wars, too.
The Ithorians.
Ithorians, thank you, yes.
Holy mackerel, nerd card. Jing, jing,
Wow. But... So the whole thing is, again, it's that Star Wars feel. There's aliens in this. There's space fights. There's intrigue. There's prostitution, apparently. I don't know.
Yes.
We'll come back.
Hold on, this will have to be bleeped probably, but the space whore is how she's listed, or whatever is listed in the credits.
We'll come back
Yes.
to
So,
the space sex worker. Talk about her.
So this is interesting because one of the criticisms of this film is that it repurposed footage from Battle Beyond the Stars. So, when we talked about Starcrash and Galaxina and Cold Equation in the second episode, it was really like, okay, what are these things trying to do as they relate to Starcrash, right? Like Cold Equation being the melodrama, Galaxina being the farce. Where do you guys think this falls in range of like seriousness?
It's in the middle because it's still trying to be space. I mean, it's very obviously space opera. There's funny elements in it. I'd put it in the same range as the Star Wars prequels, in the sense that there were occasionally silly things, like, say, the entire existence of Jar Jar Binks, or any number of other little
Jar Jar
jokes that show up as visual jokes within the movie. We've got the unsuccessful space sex worker, which, again, we'll get back to later on, because if no one wants to have sex with this...
Wait. We don't know she's unsuccessful. We don't know this.
But nobody's interested in her. And by the laws of comedy and by science fiction, everyone should be on her like ugly on an ape. They should totally be involved, because that's better. That indicates that, again, we're in a weird future. There's weird things going on.
And so let's talk about the space whore for a while. So we're jumping the gun a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
And sorry, because I don't want to forget this, right? Like, because when we talk about this as being a comedy, so this actually plays into whether or not it's a comedy or not, right? The comedy is the this is going to get bleeped too. The space pirate goes full dump on the space whore's posterior.
Yes.
And the space whore turns around. I'm just trying to see how many times I can say space whore in a paragraph. Turns around, and it has this big, huge, ugly alien face. Yes. And the joke is, oh, that's the joke, right?
Right.
Which would have been a cool setup. The punchline is would have been further down the road where somebody actually goes off with said space horror.
Or like a huge number of people indicating that.
Yes, it becomes like the door opens and there is the space horror in the bed smoking a cigarette where Hawk, or probably not Hawk because they were trying to make Hawk...
Flightplan. Totally Flightplan.
Yes, an endearing character. Anyway, sorry, space horror. Now we move on. Where were we?
Oh,
dude, it's like 5 minutes into this thing. It's already like...
What's it trying to do?
What it's trying to do? Yes.
So Wikipedia mentions that this is an attempt at a space western.
Okay.
And I said the only real westerny elements in this one are the fact that it's a pattern referred to as a professionals western, and it's based on the Magnificent Seven. And the idea is you get a gang instead of the lone hero or an accidental hero. You get a gang of professionals who is usually acting as either mercenaries or some otherwise for hire who wanders into a situation. So in this case, it's kind of like that. But that's the only really westerny element other than the dirtiness of the world they're in.
And the bar fights?
Okay.
Yeah.
But they had a food fight.
So about that, though, going back to what this is trying to do.
Yeah.
If I was that kid's age, which this kid is like 11 or 12, and I'm watching this.
On the poster, he's 10 years old, and they've taken him 10 million miles into space. That's
He's
the
11 or
tagline.
12.
So if he's 11 or 12, let's say 10
I
or
want
12.
to be accurate for the sake of
It's fine.
posterity.
But if I am 11, 12-year-old kid watching this movie, I'm going to, enjoy myself a little bit just because it seems like it's geared more towards kids where they don't actually show the punchline of the space horror being in the bed because the kid's not going to understand that.
Yeah.
The kid definitely blows up ships, but there are not people on there, quote unquote, maybe because they're robots, but he doesn't know that. And it's just about him we're supposed to think he's scared, even though he doesn't do any emotion this entire movie. And everything is like very brightly lit. There's no really scary parts. There's no really violent things. I mean, there's some blood, yes, but there's not a lot of outlandishly evil things or bad things shown.
Because even the bad guy has a soft spot.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
I mean...
And again, in the bar, there's a food fight that happens. And from the food fight comes an actual fight, but it's like one of those, ha, 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 let me punch the air in front of you fight.
Yeah.
So this movie is made for 10-year-old boys.
But at the same time, the entire crew dies.
Yes.
Except for Hawk. And he might die, depending on how good an accidental surgeon old cousin Oliver is when trying to fix him up.
Oh, so was it successful?
As a kid's movie? Yes. I think so.
Or like a kid's movie in the same realm as Mike, I think you mentioned earlier, Cloak and Dagger.
Right. Like, this is basically me as a bored 10, 11, 12-year-old in the 80s being like, oh, wouldn't it be awesome if this happened to me? Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming, because, we're going to get into talking about like how the plot doesn't work and all these other things. Kids don't give a rip about that, right? They want to see aliens, which we have. Aliens, check. People getting shot and fighting, check.
And there's Crazy Mel.
And there's Crazy Mel hologram, check. Like this idea of being like I wish when I was younger that I was a child of aliens and that they were just going to come back and take me away, right? I mean, like, most of us nerds probably had that thought. Mm-hmm. And this was us being able to live out that fantasy in film. Now for us now, or probably even 30, 40-year-old men back then, I don't know that this would have. They were probably watching Chuck Norris. Mm-hmm. Not Brando. Who's the other guy? Bronson. Sorry, I just compared Bronson. Mixed up Bronson and Brando.
Wow.
Did I lose points there?
They're both dead.
Yeah, I have lost points there. So I'm trying to see if it made money, and I can't see anything box officey here. You guys... If
it's Corman, it made money. The issue is it probably had a pretty low budget to begin with,
and partially repurposing. Right, that's what Wikipedia is telling us why they got a little bit of criticism from repurposing, which in my mind, whatever. So Corman sold New World, and this is direct quote from Wikipedia. Sold New World Pictures in January 83 for $17 million. Say the consultant, he agreed, blah, 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 blah. What does this film have to do with this film? He announced plans to make films budgeted between $2 and $5 million using cash from the sale of New World. Mm-hmm. he wanted to make less commercial films. Those films included Space Raiders, included this film. So this was probably made between 2 and 5 million, which I can see it. And wanted to make less commercial films. That doesn't make sense. So I'd have to follow that link to see where that comes from. But this is basically Saturday morning cartoon sugar.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, with a little bit more violence than usual. I guess in the 80s it would have been nothing. But nowadays we have different sensibilities.
So it was successful in making 12-year-old boys happy. Such a weird thing to say. Yes. So let's get into the WTF moments. Oh, and this is, I guess before we do that, did you see the poster? Like the poster, and if we're going to judge things, again, from the 80s as the poster being the main vehicle for selling these things, right? It's kind of Indiana Jones-ish, Jones-ish, which is interesting because if we go back to the second one, Temple of Doom, probably more popular than Raiders.
That's the worst.
But what was it more popular? It was the first one I remember. I didn't remember seeing Raiders until much later.
That's a tough call.
Okay.
Because Raiders did do pretty well,
But Temple of Doom is very much indie with a young boy.
Yeah.
This movie is set up as, even though it's a group, it's Hawk with a young boy.
Yeah.
But from the poster and everything else, I think looking at that just confirms the stuff that we already said. So good job, Mike. My first WTF moment, again, it's the very beginning with this stop motion insect that the kid is trying to capture. And he captures with a plastic cup. Said insect then eats through that plastic cup, and the boy recaptures that insect in 2 plastic cups, and that seems to be the thing that keeps that plastic eating insect captured.
Yep.
I didn't understand.
That's what you didn't understand? This entire movie is pretty much downhill from here then. Golly.
The other thing at the very beginning, WTF moment, is like, what is even going on?
Right.
I think this is one of the movies where it needed a crawl at the beginning to set up something of who these people even were.
Yeah. A crawl or some kind of
narration or something?
Scene.
Oh, narration, Alan. Punch him.
Well, that's pretty much what, if they're going with lower budget, then having some sort of voiceover, instead of having the voiceover where it was just the guy saying, hey, we're going to have a company picnic, make sure and it's just nonsensical.
It didn't have to be narration. It could have been, if you see here, so we get, I started the film over, we've got a planet shot with the opening credits. We see a helicopter shot of moving over the base here. We don't see anybody moving. That's like the Millennium Falcon. We don't see any. If we go back to that shot, there's nobody actually, like, these raiders aren't moving in, so we have no idea that that's even be visually communicated. If we would have maybe heard their radio communication, not as narration, but as some explanation here of what was about to happen. Because all of a sudden, kids hunting an insect, and then space pirates show up.
And why is this kid roaming around this weird warehouse thing just without...
And it's not established till after the kid ends up kidnapped that he's obviously it's inferred, you're making the assumption he's related to somebody here, but like they don't do anything for setting up anything. And again, I think a misunderstanding of Star Wars, because Star Wars starts with that first opening sequence, but the crawl helped to establish what was going on there.
Well, that and clear character design and a number of other things.
Wearing the wardrobes, everything,
Speaking of that bug, that kid broke the Prime Directive because he took the bug onto a different planet and let it go. That is the most dangerous thing you can do to an ecosystem.
Asian carp, anyone?
Man, yes.
Zebra mussels?
Yes. I mean, and that's still on our same planet.
Yeah.
So you put that bug on a different planet, who knows what's going to happen?
It'll become the god king of that planet.
I know.
Yeah, there we go. There's my sequel idea for this. Because out of all these movies, I'm either going to write a prequel or a sequel based on what's going to help me try to make more sense of it. So what are your WTF moments? Because we could watch this whole thing straight through and be like, yep, that's one, that's one, that's one.
All right, my first moment, and this is from Battle Beyond the Stars, actually, are those boobs on their ship?
I thought they might be testicles. Depending which angle you see, and we're talking about the spaceship that's used here, the primary
spaceship.
The thing
that looks like a hammerhead shark.
Yep.
Or a Nithorian.
Yep. And it's got boobs. And I was wondering if this might be some kind of play on the idea of a ship's figurehead.
Well, so this...
Like you got the mermaid with boobs on the front of your pirate ship, and this might be a play on that?
If we go to where this ship came from, Battle Beyond the Stars, And the culture that had this ship in Battle Beyond the Stars was very much a elven, organic, in touch with nature culture.
Was that the chick that barely wore anything? That was the warrior?
No, that was the Valkyrie.
Okay.
That was the Valkyrie.
Okay.
No, this is the initial planet that Scarface comes and says he's going to give 7 days or whatever it is, 7 risings of your sun.
I need to watch this.
So they were, Battle Beyond the Stars. So the initial planet is like a peaceful planet, unable to defend themselves, right? 7 samurai. And their ship is very organic. I'm making motions with my hands as I try to figure out which words I'm allowed to say. Compared to every other ship that we see that is very much straight lines, harsh shadows, blah, blah,
more
blah,
phallic.
blah, blah.
Which, at least from a design standpoint, does make more sense.
That 100% makes sense.
But just being used out of the blue here...
Exactly.
Like, what is that doing?
Yeah.
I watched this with my friend, and he was saying...
Is he still your friend?
He's saying, what's up with all the boobs? So that the ship, and then they go down to a planet to see the other ships towards the end of the movie, and there are these silos that look very rounded, boob-like.
Chestacular?
Yeah, and then the one woman in here gets shot in the chest.
Yeah, but doesn't everybody get shot in the chest?
No. So the first guy, that's another WTF moment, okay? The first guy that gets shot on this planet as they're getting ready.
This guy here?
Yeah. We're watching the movie right now, and there's a scene.
Oh, WTF.
He gets shot in the stomach, and then later on they take him to the ship, and they spray something on him, but they spray something up at the top of the chest and not down at the stomach.
Huh.
And it was just the whole thing, like, they can't remember.
Well, the whole first fight scene, like, the shooting and the reactions to being shot are so freaking ridiculous and off. It doesn't make sense.
In my notes, I have dramatic shooting, dramatic dying.
Yes, I just had a big, huge revelation. The one thing watching this, the neckerchiefs, like, I don't know, that was a big WTF moment because they make an interest of people taking them on and off. First guy that gets shot has a neckerchief. So maybe it's when you have a neckerchief, you're the next to die.
Oh, man.
It's like the red shirt.
Exactly. And then, so Alan, what's your WTFs?
All right, so I've got, how does the ugly alien hooker make a living if no one is attracted to her? So, again, missing a huge opportunity to show how weird this future world is. Let's see. The kid gets a beer. All right, now this reinforces the whole, this is like Cloak and Dagger and these other kids' fantasy things. Because not only does this kid get to kill like every kid wants to, but on top of that, that kid gets a nice frosty beer after.
Yeah.
And a whole beer, he doesn't even just get a sip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like,
they're not his parents.
It's 1983.
Yeah, whatever.
And it's interesting because then the insect that he captures, it gets put into an empty beer can, and that's where it lives after the plastic. So this kid really does like go from innocent kid hunting bugs to human killing, spaceship flying, watching people die,
Blooded, beside,
beer swilling outlaw. I mean, every 10-year-old's dream.
He still has that terrible hair.
Yes.
Yeah, well.
I think that's us kind of projecting that on him because they don't actually they show the actual actions, but the entire time the kid is blank faced, kind of smiling. He's got one emotional moment where he's crying because Hawk might die, maybe.
Oh, spoilers.
But the whole time, it's just the kid is the same. At the end, he's even running like a kid would run.
Yeah.
Right. He goes back to being a kid.
Yeah. So there's like no character development. I see anyways.
Yeah, because like it's like Hawk likes this kid from the beginning.
Yeah.
The lady that doesn't like the kid from the beginning doesn't end up really liking the kid, right?
But she dies, so what?
Yeah, I mean,
very dramatically.
There is no... Well, everything she does is dramatic. Did you see that shot of her just throwing the thing out of the locker? Yeah. Everything she does is like... Her barrel rolls are just like the most pronounced barrel rolls I've ever seen.
She's trying to act, okay?
No, she is being. She's beyond acting. She is being. Set design's nice, though. And again, because they borrowed it from something else.
Yeah.
But a big WTF moment I have is this movie just like fakes emotion.
Right.
Like it tries to have these big moving emotional moments, but doesn't do anything to build up and create those things. Like this crew here, like I don't even know that I mean, all that is just so faked. They're all huddled around the shop person trying to save them and but we don't even know his name. We don't even know this guy's name.
I think they said it once.
Yeah.
Maybe, but we don't care.
Yeah. Are these good guys? Are they bad guys?
Well, obviously they're bad guys. They just stole some stuff.
Maybe they're rebels. Maybe they stole good stuff.
Okay, maybe.
The other WTF moment at the very beginning, the voice over the intercom is playing this like it's a Mel Brooks film.
Right.
That was really awkward.
Yeah.
Because I expected from the music, which sounded more like Galaxy Quest, so it sounded more like a kid's adventure. And then from this voiceover, I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be a comedy or a kid's adventure thing. And then dude gets shot. He dies right in front of him. He's got blood all over him. Everybody gets upset.
Oh, there was emotion.
They caught the kid in a good day. Yeah. But then it gets really, it's trying to find its holding, but it's not doing a good job at figuring out what to do.
Yeah, it's like it tries to do everything and therefore does nothing, right? It's not funny as it could be. The emotional stuff doesn't land.
Right. Even the action stuff doesn't land. So even if we're talking
because the shots don't hit.
Well, the worst, there's or another WTF. So there's a point at which our heroes are on a bridge and they're crossing it. Well, we use heroes in big quotation marks. Our heroes, the people that the camera is pointed at most of the time, are crossing a bridge. And there is a parallel bridge that has robots on it. There is a low rail on the bridge. There's no exchange of fire until they hit the end of the bridge. It's suddenly, that low rail has stopped blocking our line of sight. Now it is time to engage the robots.
We all know that robots can't hit with railings.
Well, okay. But we're passing up the opportunity for some very savage railing kills.
Yes!
To use a line from MST3K, there's a movie they do called Space Mutiny, which just has situation after situation where someone gets shot and falls over a railing. And at one point, someone falls over, they all yell out, "Railing kill!" And so...
Wasted opportunity.
They passed up that opportunity. And the robots are also played up at one point as like really threatening, and then they just shoot one and it falls right over. It's like, why didn't you do that before?
Yeah.
Not only that, but they kicked one and he fell down and he tried to get up and the other person just stepped on the robot's chest and it just stayed down. Like, okay.
So the robots are not menacing.
And that's why they went with clones. Oh, wait, wrong movie.
Obviously. So one of the things towards the beginning of the movie when they find the kid, Hawk goes, "I won't hurt you. I'll either ransom you or throw you out an airlock."
Wait.
I love that quote. Because, he's not going to hurt him. He's either going to ransom him or pretty much kill him.
Okay, I've said something like that to my son.
So quote Roundup.
All right.
Quotes, okay.
Yeah.
When I grow up, I'm going to have a job in some office. I won't get to kill anyone then. Let's see. Quote, "We never do laundry." Which I think should be the tagline for this one. Quote, "I'm just another loser trying to stay alive. And guess what? It didn't work." It's dead. I think that's Hawk, actually. So I guess he did stay alive, but he got everyone else in his crew killed for no gain whatsoever.
Amazing leadership qualities.
Yeah.
You got one? Okay.
I think that's everything. So eventually we will get to the WTF of the overall plot here.
Yes.
But
I got another quote. "You can't buy rings. They got to come to you." And I'm like, no, I've been to a store.
Yeah, you actually need to pay money to get it.
It is like the Watching Somewhere in Time.
So this is a wide-eyed young kid with a crazy, grizzled old man that go on an adventure. Back to the Future.
And Star Wars.
Yes.
And everything.
But I had to bring it back
to the Future.
I had to bring it back to Back to the Future.
Yep.
Future Day was a couple days ago at the time of this recording, so
yes.
I wanted to bring that in.
Well,
thank you for
always have to link back to the Future.
Thank you for that.
So I wanted to wait until a little bit later on to talk about kind of the plot
We
a little
have
bit.
7 minutes left.
This movie. Okay, but what I got was this is Raising Arizona in Space.
That's a good one.
Home Alone in Space.
Got it.
And there was something else in space.
Cloak and Dagger in space.
Yeah, but they have the Wet Space Bandits. There was 2 guys that were trying to.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Kidnap the kid.
So
that whole trying to get him in the ductwork thing. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, 100%.
Except without the man traps. But anyway.
The one thing that scares me a little bit is that because I watched this, Now I'm getting the recommendation. Similar title is Ice Pirates. Ice Pirates is not on Prime. I remember watching Ice Pirates and loving that thing as a kid. And I probably saw it on Cinemax or something like that, right? And maybe a VHS tape or whatever. I remember loving it. I am so deathly afraid right now to go back and watch it because it might be this.
I don't think it's this. It might not live up to your memories, but it won't be this.
But I think that's the one of the things, right? Like some of these things are better left unrewatched.
Yeah.
Like Short Circuit. Short Circuit is a film that for me did not hold up on watching it 25, 30 years later,
I would
right?
believe that, yes.
I don't know what that means. But it's just a feeling I had when I saw that. I was like, oh, this is bad. And they're comparing it to this. Dear God, I love this. Don't destroy things I love.
Well, going from Starcrash to this being in that algorithm, do you feel that any of these movies are slightly better or more watchable than others?
We will get to our first actual movie we've watched here that I've actually enjoyed.
Okay.
Next time.
Okay.
Because that's Secret Empire. And Secret Empire is actually fun.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't land all the time, and the jokes are like sub-Elvira wordplay, so... Okay, and there's a Native American woman, and everything she says is bad Native American jokes.
Oh,
so it's okay. It's probably a little racist too, but
It was the 80s.
other than that, it was actually really enjoyable.
If I know anything about the 80s, it was racist and cocaine driven. That's what I know. Yes.
Plot issue in this one. The big problem is that we have a situation where we have a kidnapped child, and the corporation that the kid's parent, or at least his dad, works for, wants him back, and they send that big, slow-looking, rip-off Corellian Corvette to go get him. And they get into lots of fights with our heroes, quotation marks, repeatedly, to get the kid. And at the end of the movie, they take the kid back.
They were trying to do that the entire time.
But they were trying to take the kid back, and the corporation was trying to take the kid back. So your corporation's not killing us.
So in film, the drama becomes when two people want sometimes the same thing, right? And they both can't have it. But the same thing that these two want, they can both have without any conflict, right? And I think this film tries to manufacture all of its emotion, tries to manufacture all of its conflict. And this is a failure of, well, as we see, some acting, but of poor storytelling.
Yes, it reminds me of, have either of you seen the Tales of Ribaldry skits? I think it was from Saturday Night Live. It was John Lovitz. And he plays this character named Evelyn Quince, who is this fop who is telling these naughty stories. And he loves sexual tension, but he hates it when it actually gets resolved. And one of the episodes has Tom Hanks as this, like, sweaty workman who two women are lusting after. And at one point, the story just says, well, why don't we have a threesome? And the women agree immediately. And it cuts to Quince, and he's horrified that the story has been resolved. This won't do. It's the same kind of thing here. It's like, well, why don't we just take the kid back and we'll all be happy? and then we won't have a story.
And less dead.
and none of us will die.
Well, that and the two wet space bandits stole the kid, and then the guys that kidnapped the kid in the beginning went after the kid, and they're in the right because kidnapping's wrong. But double kidnapping is wronger?
Apparently.
Yeah.
And apparently, like, the crime lord who, like, sent the guys to kidnap the kid was going to ransom the kid to the corporation.
Well, he didn't send him to kidnap the kid. The kid just kind of went on the ship for reasons, I saw.
Okay.
He just went up. He looked up in the space hatch, or the hatch of the ship. There was a ladder there. There was a shot that went by him. He's like, I'm going in the ship. And nonchalant about it. The entire time nonchalant about the fire... The weapons fire, the dead bodies around him, the bleeding out guy. Kid's okay with that.
Yeah, so they didn't really kidnap him. He was a stowaway.
Yeah.
And because space laws are written as they are, it ended up being kidnapping, I guess, right?
What's frustrating is it seems like everybody wants the same thing in this, and the only conflict is who's going to get paid for it.
Yeah, and I don't know who the bad guys are. I don't know what the corporation is. It's like these entities have no clear anything, because even who's the big bad?
The corporation with the Tantive 4 ripoff.
Why?
But the thing
Because
is,
it's a death ship.
but the corporation is representing the interests of these poor parents who lost their child.
Not the poor parents. Just the
Or
one
their poor
father
father,
that
yeah.
wants to get his kid back, and his immediate boss is saying, we'll blow him up. It's okay. If he survives, he survives. But we're going to get him back. Either way.
Really?
That's what she kind of said.
How did I not?
Because she
get
sent
that?
this death ship out.
I think part of the problem is, we had the issue, obviously, of mixing up the movies as part of this podcast because of just, watching them like we have. But compounded with the fact they use the same freaking music and same shots is making this difficult. Because I'm thinking back to now, I don't know if I'm remembering Battle Beyond the Stars or remembering this. But I can't remember. Never mind. It's not important. I'm sure it's in some galaxy far, far away. It makes
Now
sense,
you sound like Roger Corman.
Yes.
Best actor in this entire film, or movie, not film, sorry. This entire movie. There is a guy in the bar who's just trying to build a house of cards. During the fight, he's trying to build it, and you can tell it's all taped together. But he's just trying to cover his cards up, and then later on, he's got a bug on his nose, like a big bug, and he's just trying to break friends with it. He's still trying to build his house of cards. That guy is the best extra ever. Like, he steals the scene the entire time. I know that's off on a tangent and a rant, but it's good stuff.
Have you listened to our podcast before?
No, I'm just saying, like, it's off out there, but it was good.
So, a warning. Flightplan here will return.
Is a character.
Because he is played by Thom Christopher, who plays Truxardus, the villain from Deathstalker 3.
Sweet. I'm so excited for
And
Deathstalker.
the music from Battle Beyond the Stars, which is used in this movie, is also used as the theme music in Deathstalker 3. I was trying desperately to figure out, where have I heard this before? And then, oh my god, no.
So, apparently, TV Guide stated that the story, and this is from Wikipedia, was a thinly disguised ripoff of Star Wars.
What?
In the sense that everything about space in 1983 was a thinly disguised ripoff of Star Wars, I suppose.
I guess. Because space.
It's a legitimate accusation to make about pretty much anything other than Star Trek at that point.
Yeah, so. Wow.
Okay.
But it's not really playing around with that. Other than the dirtiness of the aesthetic.
And again, this is hilarious. So, and I'll read verbatim here. On September 2nd, 2014, Scorpion Releasing, which is the name of a company, released Space Raiders on DVD as a standard release and on Blu-ray as a 2,000-unit limited edition. The special features include the film's theatrical trailer and interviews with Corman, star David Mendenhall, and post-production supervisor Clark Henderson. As of February 19th, 2016, the Blu-ray has not sold out and is still available for purchase at regular prices. Like that last line just seems like so like angry and it's so like mean, right? You couldn't even sell 2,000 copies of this loser film.
I do miss the days of sci-fi movies and TV shows where they had flashing lights in the background for no reason other than they flash and they look fancy.
The flashing lights and the toggle switches seem to be like that was what everybody thought the future was going to be.
Now it's all touchscreens and holograms.
Yeah.
Sad day.
Because that's transparent stuff on the bridge.
Yeah, of course, transparent stuff on the bridge.
I think in Battle Beyond the Stars, when the hero starts to pilot the ship, and he's talking to a ship that has AI, yet he still has to flip a few toggle switches that are not labeled. It's kind of like it's just dumb. But like this ship can we'll have to do Battle Beyond the Stars. Sorry, I don't want to get off on that one because I don't want to confuse anybody. But the scarf thing there, and that's a huge thing. They all have neckerchiefs. I don't know why. I don't know what part of the pirate's life for me that requires.
Maybe it's...
there it is. There's our space alien.
Yeah.
Or space...
Hey, Flightplan's checking her out.
So he does.
At the beginning, Flightplan said she's not my type, and then she turns around and he was like, yeah, she's my type. Because he
You are like Flightplan.
Yes.
Because he
So-
doesn't like
He's a
humans.
space player.
So it's 1 o'clock. So, Mr. Klink, you have to go to class
Yes,
at
I
some
do.
point, right? So what do we learn? Number one, it's a hard living as a space whore.
Number one.
Number
That's
one.
our first one.
Because I'm using that word because that's how she's titled in the
Yes,
credits.
it's not
So
our
it's-
fault.
Yes. Blame the 80s. Blame the misogynistic 80s.
If you're 11-year-old and in space, you cannot get killed because adults will help you.
So go with strangers.
That's what I get from this, right?
So go with strangers.
Go with
yes.
strangers. Don't go with strangers, kids. But go with strangers in space, apparently.
And what I learned is it is very important to communicate at all times, or else your entire crew will get killed by people who want the same goal you want.
Awesome. All right, so from Michael Klink, Dr. Alan Barris, Michael Vanderpool, because you watched Starcrash, this movie that might be Battle Beyond Raiders of the Lost Somethings, we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye, folks.